All right, fourth grade. So if you remember this book that we read yesterday, and this was a nonfiction biography, which means it is a story about a real person, and everything in this book is true because it is nonfiction. And the person that we were learning about is Duke Ellington, which is the title of this book. It was written by Andrea Davis Pinkney, illustrated by Brian Pinkney. Now today, I'm going to need everyone to be ready to participate, even though we're not together on Zoom. And in order to be successful in doing so, I need you to get your reading notebook and a pencil out in front of you. Go ahead and pause the video if you need time to get that ready. Once you have your reading notebook out in front of you, turn to the first blank page you have, and I need you to write Duke Ellington at the top to help keep you organized. If you need to know how to spell it, it is again the title of our book and spelled out on top. You're going to be answering questions while I reread the story. That means that when I tell you to pause the video to answer the question, I need you to be listening in order to have time to respond to some of our deep thinking questions. Let's begin. Duke Ellington. You ever hear of the jazz playing man? The man with the cats who could swing with his band. He was born in 1899 in Washington, D.C., born Edward Kennedy Ellington. But wherever young Edward went, he said, "Hey, call me Duke." Duke's name fit him rightly. He was a smooth-talking, slick-stepping, piano-playing kid. But his piano playing wasn't always as breezy as his stride. When Duke's mother, Daisy, and his father, J.E., enrolled him in piano lessons, Duke didn't want to go. Baseball was Duke's idea of fun, but his parents had other notions for their child. Duke had to start with the piano basics, his fingers playing the same tired tune. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Daisy and J.E. made Duke practice day after day. To Duke, 1 and 2 wasn't music. He called it an umpy-dump, with sound that was headed nowhere worth following. He quit his lessons and kissed the piano a fast goodbye. Years later, on a steamy summer night, Duke heard that umpy-dump played in a whole new way. Folks called this music ragtime, piano that turned umpy-dump into a soul-rousing romp. The ragtime music set Duke's fingers to wiggling. Soon he was back at the piano, trying to plunk out his own ragtime rhythm. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. At first, this was the only crude tinkling Duke knew. This is a time for you to pause the video after I read off your question. So Duke tries playing piano again, even though he didn't like it the first time. What does this teach us about being willing to try something, even if we didn't like it the first time? Below this question, in this bluish box, is a sentence strip you can use to get you started. It says, Duke trying piano again teaches me that, fill in the blank. Please pause the video to write this down as question number 1 in your reading notebook. But with practice, all Duke's fingers rode the piano keys. Duke started to play his own made-up melodies. Whole notes, chords, sharps and flats, left-handed hops and right-handed slides. Believe it, man, Duke taught himself to press on the pearlies like nobody else could. His 1 and 2 umpy-dump became a thing of the past. Now, playing the piano was Duke's all-time love. When Duke was 19, he was entertaining ladies and gents at parties, pool halls, country clubs, and cabarets. He had fine as good pie good looks and flashy threads. He was a ladies' man with flair to spare, and whenever a pretty-skinned beauty leaned on Duke's piano, he played his best music, compositions smoother than a hairdo sleeked with pomade. It wasn't long before Duke formed his own small band, a group of musicians who played all over Washington, D.C. But soon they split the D.C. scene and made tracks for New York City, for Harlem, the place where jazz music ruled. They called themselves the Washingtonians and performed in all kinds of New York City honky-tonks, Barron's Exclusive, the Plantation, Ciro's, and the Kentucky Club. Folks got to know the band by name and came to hear them play. Then, on an autumn day in 1927, Lady Luck smiled pretty on the Washingtonians. They were asked to play at the Cotton Club, Harlem's swankiest hangout, a big-time night spot. The Cotton Club became a regular gig for Duke and his band. They grew to 12 musicians and changed their name to Duke Ellington and his orchestra. Night after night they played their music, which was broadcast live over the radio. For all those homebodies out in radio lovers' land, folks who only dreamed of sitting pretty at the Cotton, the show helped them feel like they were out on the town. Duke's Creole love call was spicier than a pot of jambalaya. His mood indigo was a musical steam that swelled over the airwaves. Sometimes the orchestra performed their tunes straight up, but other nights, when the joint started to jump, Duke told his band to play whatever came to mind, to improvise their solos, to make the music fly. And they did. Each instrument raised its own voice. One by one, each cat took the floor and wiped it clean with his own special way of playing. Sonny Greer pounded out the bang of jump rope feet on the street with his snare drum, a subway beat on his bass drum, a sassy ride on his cymbal. Sonny's percussion was smooth and steady. Sometimes only his drumsticks made the music, cracking out the rattly beat of wood slapping wood. What are some words that help describe what the drummer's drums sound like? If you need to, go back in the video to listen to the page that I just read. Below is a sentence starter that can help you write your sentence. This will be number 2 written in your reading notebook. Blank are some words that describe how his drums sound. Please pause the video to finish the question. Along with Sonny, Joe Tricky Sam Nanton went to work on his trombone. Sliding smooth melodic gold, he stretched the notes to their full tilt, pushing and pulling their tropical lilt. When Tricky Sam was through, he'd nod to Otto, Toby Hardwick. "Your turn," he'd say. "Take the floor, Daddy-O." Toby let loose on his sleek brass sax, curling his notes like a kite tail in the wind, a musical loop-de-loop with a serious twist. Last came James "Bubber" Millie, a one-of-a-kind horn player. He could make his trumpet wail like a man whose blues were deeper than the deep blue sea. To stir up the sound of his low moan horn, Bubber turned out a growl from way down in his throat. His gut-bucket tunes put a spell on the room. What are some words that help describe what the horns player trumpet sounds like? Again, if you need to hear me reread that page, go back a little in the video and listen for words that describe the music he's playing. Please pause the video now so you can answer the question as number 3 in your reading notebook. Again, there's a sentence strip down at the bottom to help you finish the sentence. Yeah, those solos were kickin', hot buttered bop with lots of sassy cool tones. When the band did their thing, the Cotton Club performers danced the Black Bottom, the Fishtail, and the Suzy Q. And while they were cutting the rug, Duke slid his honey-colored fingertips across the ivory 88s. The word on Duke and his band spread from New York to Macon to Kalamazoo and on to the sunshiny Hollywood Hills. The whole country soon swung to Duke's beat. Once folks got a taste of Duke's soul-sweet music, they hurried to the record stores asking, "Yo, you got the Duke? Slide me some King of the Keys, please. Gonna play me that Piano Prince and his band." People bought Duke's records, thousands of them. In 1939, Duke hired Billy Strayhorn, a musician who wrote songs. Billy became Duke's ace, his main man. Duke and Billy worked as a team. Together, they composed unforgettable music. Billy's song, Take the A Train, was one of the greatest hits of 1941. With the tunes that he and Billy wrote, Duke painted colors with his band sounds. He could swirl the butterscotch tones of Tricky Sam's horn with the silver notes of the alto saxophones. And ooh, those clarinets! Duke could blend their red-hot blips with a purple dash of brass from the trumpet section. In time, folks said Duke Ellington's real instrument wasn't his piano at all. It was his orchestra. Most people called his music jazz, but Duke called it the music of my people. And to celebrate the history of African American people, Duke composed a special suite he called Black, Brown, and Beige, a suite that rocked the bosom and lifted the soul. Black, Brown, and Beige sang the glories of dark skin, the pride of African heritage, and the triumphs of Black people, from the days of slavery to years of civil rights struggles. How are the author's words helping you feel the music? Go back a little bit to that page to listen to some of the words, maybe even sensory details that were said that help you feel the music. Here's a sentence strip to get you started. The author uses words like blank, which help me feel the music. Please pause the video so you can answer this as question number 4 in your reading notebook. Duke introduced Black, Brown, and Beige at New York Carnegie Hall, a symphony hall so grand that even the seats wore velvet. Few African Americans had played at Carnegie Hall before. Duke and his orchestra performed on January 23, 1943. Outside, the winter wind was cold and slapping, but inside, Carnegie Hall was sizzling with applause. Duke had become a master maestro. Because of Duke's genius, his orchestra now had a musical mix like no other. Now you've heard of the jazz-playing man, the man with cats who could swing with his band, King of the Keys, Piano Prince, Edward Kennedy Ellington, the Duke. So why was it a big deal that Duke played at New York Carnegie Hall? That was on the last page we just read. I want you to try to think about some other things that were mentioned in this book, especially considering that Duke Ellington was an African American man. Here's a sentence strip that'll get you started for answering this question. It was a big deal that Duke played at New York Carnegie Hall because... Go ahead and answer it. Pause the video for more time. This should be question number 5 that you're writing down in your reading notebook. Let's reflect and think. How did Duke Ellington impact our world? Here are some sentence strips that could get you started. Duke Ellington impacted our world by put your answer, or put your answer is a way Duke Ellington impacted our world. Please pause the video. This should be question number 6 that you're writing down in your reader's notebook. Reflect and think. What do you think Duke would have ended up doing if he never made music? Remember, the beginning of the story, he wasn't a fan of piano. What do you think he would have done instead? Here are some sentence strip ideas. I think Duke would have blank because blank, or I believe he would blank since blank. Please pause the video to answer this question. This should be question number 7 that you are writing down in your reading notebook. Reflect and think. How do you think Duke Ellington's music made people feel? A sentence strip to get you started is, I think his music made people feel blank because blank. Make sure you're giving a reason for all of your statements. You can even pull evidence from the text. Please pause the video to answer this question. This should be question number 8 that you're writing down in your reading notebook. All right, that's it for our read aloud section. Now, there's going to be a spot in Seesaw for you to turn all of this work in.